Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this exclusive International Women's Day LinkedIn Live programs by ET International, and I'll be your host and moderator for this session. And before we start, I would first like to wish everyone a very happy International Women's Day. This year, the theme for IWD is Break the Bias, and we hope our session today helps you break all those biases at work and create an inclusive and equal workplace. Though the pandemic has made workplace flexibility more of a reality for some workers, many employees, especially women, are still at their breaking point when it comes to balancing home life and work life. Organizations around the world understand the need for diversity and are putting efforts to create a more diverse and inclusive workplace. Yet, the progress doesn't seem to be much. Programs designed to increase diversity and inclusion in the workplace often fail, according to many reports. A number of studies have been conducted in the space of diversity and inclusion with the focus on how employers and women can break the glass ceiling. There is no dearth of knowledge when it comes to creating an equitable workplace, but we feel it is absolutely imperative to know what's working and what's not. And in order to delve deeper into this topic, I have the pleasure of inviting our speakers for this LinkedIn Live panel discussion. First up, we have with us Soumita Bhattacharya, who's Chief Technology Officer, AXA Mandiri Financial Services. An avid dog lover and a sustainability enthusiast, Soumita believes that technology is an enabler, provided it is put into the right hands. While information technology is the key aspect of her work, she draws her purpose from the people she works with and learns with. She believes that the most important determinant of a team's success is a larger common purpose, and as a leader, this is what she strives towards. She looks forward to playing a meaningful role in making the world around her more progressive, equitable, and sustainable. And our next speaker for today is May Sunega, Head HR Broadcast. May brings an in depth experience in managing all facets of human resource management. She possesses a strong ability to develop leadership programs and sound policies and practices that promote employee retention and loyalty. She is an expert in dealing with Philippine labor statutes with unique ability to respond to the demands of both startup companies and mature organizations. She has successfully handled mergers, acquisitions, and organizational restructuring in her career journey. Welcome, Somita and May, and thank you so much for joining us for this live discussion.
Glad to be here, Yasmin.
Thank you. Thank
Pleasure
you.
to
And
be here, Yasmin.
thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to hearing some great insights from the both of you and delving deeper into how we can create a balance, how we can create more diverse and equitable workplaces since we are celebrating International Women's Day. So I will not waste further time and I'll actually jump into the first question here. So as we look at the last 2 years that have passed, how has the pandemic impacted women's workforce participation in specifically? So maybe I would like to start with you. How do you think the impact has been on women especially?
I think the impact, to say that it has been profound for women would be an understatement, right? A lot of the professional women I know have been around the industry and have spent most of their working life away from home. And there are many things at home that we don't see in detail because we leave the house early in the morning, we come back late at night, right? But now with the pandemic, mixing the demands of our work and seeing the very reality of the people at home and catching all of these things in detail unfolding before our eyes 24 by 7, right? We used to go and the kids go to school and they have their own lives. Now they sit right next to you in another room. You can hear their conversations with their classmates, their teachers, whether they're doing well or not, whether they're happy or not. You spend the other room with your husband, whom you used to just see in the evening, and now you hear him at play at work, right? So I think it has profoundly given us a glimpse of that part of our life that we didn't see unless the pandemic happened. So I think the women who are in the workspace have been profoundly affected, both in a good and a bad way, when the pandemic hits us. And it has tested us as women, I think, far more than we thought we could ever be tested. I know I used to think that I love the teachers of my kids for their patience, right? And having to homeschool a 7-year-old, I love those teachers even more. So it has tested us, I think, far more than we thought we could ever be.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, May. I think the primary role of women at times has been of caregivers, right? At home, for parents, for children, for families. And now balancing that by being at home and managing work at the same time, as you said, it has tested our patience. It has shown how resilient I think women are and how well they can manage this. Yes, the challenges, the burnout has actually maybe doubled for many of us, but this has been the reality since the pandemic. Samita, I would like to hear from you now. But how do you
Yeah,
think that this whole pandemic has impacted women workforce?
sure. I think I would also like to bring a positive perspective that has come in with the pandemic. Because I work on the IT side, right? IT has for a very long time adopted more remote working. We used to have geographically distributed teams when I started working in 2004, which means people who wanted to work but had responsibilities at home, they could adopt flexible working. But I think the pandemic has brought this reality to other more traditional sectors as well. I know a lot of women who probably could not devote as much time as they wanted to work, or they could not flexi work as much as they would have liked to manage their responsibilities. They've really got the opportunity now, and I think it has proven to a lot of employers, at least in Indonesia, there was a lot more resistance to remote working in the past because people probably did not trust enough whether the model can really work. But the pandemic has given everyone the opportunity to test that out. I certainly feel that has been a move towards the positive. But on the other side, I do agree with May. It has also tested us because it has put us at home a lot more than what used to be in the past, right? Not just us, uh, our spouses, our partners, they've been at home as well. And for those of us who are not as fortunate as us, and just before we got on live, we were just having that chat about how fortunate we are. But there are a lot of women who are not as fortunate as us in their life situations, right? For them, the pandemic has really increased the stress they have at home, mental stress, family stress, because when you're out of sight you can be out of mind, but when you are out there people start to expect you're there to do each and everything. And for those people it has become a huge problem as to how to balance the two responsibilities. And that's something that those of us who are fortunate, I think we play a role in lending them a hand or a shoulder to lean on, or if nothing else, just a ear to listen to their challenges.
Yes, I totally agree. And I also agree that there have been positive sides and there have been some, not so positive sides to the pandemic on women. One positive side I could also feel was the fact that many women got to work more. They could join the workforce more because there were times when, because of their family responsibilities, they could not take up a job and go to office. But with this flexible working and hybrid working environment, they got that opportunity. So the talent pool for organization that ways became more. But then again, yes, for women the challenges of again managing both the sides, the expectations that families and work has from them. I think again, as I said, it requires more from them, and as you rightly pointed out, more patience from the women workforce. So thanks for sharing that, Samita and me. Also, now we've seen since the pandemic, work from home is now being considered as a equalizer for women at work. However, we are also seeing that women are more burnt out, and we just spoke about that. In fact, more than men. So, what are some of the initiatives and areas that you can talk about that we can focus on to overcome these challenges as leaders, as organizations? May, would you like to answer that first?
I think the primary thing that we need to consider as organization is the heightened awareness and appreciation of the challenges that women workers have. Um, some people would say that the pandemic is an equalizer. I say don't say that it was an equalizer, right? Because I think we all regardless of our sexual orientation. We all put in efforts in our work, whether at the office, at home, or remote. So I don't think we should term that as an equalizer, because I think women in particular put in as much dedication to work as others do, right? Very respectfully at that. But I think that the awareness, right, of the challenges that these women have to balance work and home life is one, right? And so the respect among the leadership in general, and the boundaries, set proper boundaries, right? You when we say they are not available to you 24 by 7, so be respectful of time is something that I always tell leaders, right? Just because you have the luxury to answer at 10 p.m. or at 11 p.m. or on weekends, it is not a luxury shared by all. So there has to be a set of rules in the organization where everyone can respect the boundaries of time between work and personal lives, right? So that's one. So heightened awareness, respect on boundaries. And I think the third is it is not enough that we articulate our philosophy as an organization, but we also need to put that in action. And the leadership of an organization plays a vital role. We emulate what our leaders do. So if I tell you that you have a quiet Friday, as a leader in the organization, it is my responsibility to observe that quiet Friday. If I say respect boundaries in time, I should be able to do that and respect your boundaries between work time and personal time, right? And I should also have the responsibility to show that there is life outside of work. I should not hide my family time, the fact that I enjoy my kids, the fact that I do other activities, and work is not my only life. So I think, Yasmin, to my mind in the organization is we respect boundaries as an organization and agree that these are the rules of the game. Second, we articulate very clearly in the organization how we want the behavior to be seen. And third, it is incumbent upon our leadership to put those behaviors and rules into action.
I think a lot of it depends on heightened awareness, and a lot of it depends on how are you respecting the bound? How are you firstly setting those boundaries as women employees, and how are leaders appreciating and supporting women to set those boundaries, and then set the tone for an organization overall to respect those boundaries. I think yes, leadership plays a key role in that. I think as women employees, we ourselves also, and I think it's a very important point that maybe I would like to hear from the both of you about the guilt that women face at times. They feel they're not giving enough. They feel if they're giving time to their family, they are ignoring work. I think we all have this burden on our hands all the time about guilt. So Samita, while you answer this, maybe you can touch a little bit about this whole guilt factor. First, obviously we need to talk about how do organizations deal with the burnout women employees are going through more, and then maybe talk a little bit. I'd like to actually hear the both of you on the guilt part also. So Samita, over to you.
Sure. I mean, may completely introduce the topic by talking about, boundaries, including times when you respect, when you're not supposed to be meeting, and you lead with that, right? But what also happens is, as you correctly said, guilt sets in, and an undue pressure sets in also, because you also have this perception that maybe people feel that I'm spending more time attending to my family responsibilities, or maybe my family feels that I'm only focusing on work and neglecting my children or other responsibilities, right? And I think, at least, and both of us come from insurance backgrounds, May and I think insurance has pretty much been a leader in this, but a lot of other organizations have also really put mental health in the center of it, and that's something that we really need to talk about. Mental health is not an illness. It is uh, the cause of burnout, right? It's not because you have too much work or too much stress that you've burned out. It is because of the way you perceive it, the way you handle it, that you've been burned out. So focusing on mental health through various ways, be it talking, be it giving people access to teleconsultation, various kind of resources that are out there, or just giving them a shoulder that they can lean on. And here I really want to stress on conversations and empathy. When your leader or someone that's close to you is paying attention to you, having conversations to you. And what I found really helped me also personally, a few of our leaders, they showed us that they too have feet of clay. So they also have their vulnerabilities, their own challenges. So you're not alone in what you're feeling, and it's okay to feel those. It's normal. You're not the only one facing these issues. Uh, that I think really helps to lighten the burden. And this is probably something we have to do a lot more of. Another thing where, again, what I was alluding to earlier, we've been responsible. Probably more of the people who work in corporates have been, very fortunate in not having to face a lot of issues that probably the informal sector faces. I think it's also important to extend a helpline to them. Some of the things, for example, AXA, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other organizations have been doing, is working closely with a lot of NGO groups, with the government, to extend support to people who are facing, let's say, domestic abuse, or don't go into extremes of domestic abuse, who may be suffering financial hardships, extending financial advice or trainings to them. Those are some of the things that we as responsible citizens can do, going beyond CSR initiatives, to really do something meaningful to support the women out there who are facing the brunt of things worse than us.
Yes, great points, Somita. As we said that health awareness, accepting that yes, you are vulnerable, you are gullible, you feel the pressures of the change the world is going through, the change your own family is going through, and then organizations putting in lending out that hand to help in whichever way possible. Firstly, by accepting it, that people might be going through different phases in their lives, they might be feeling burnouts in different ways, and then setting up an initiative or an ecosystem which kind of supports and encourages people to talk and share and feel better and seek help. I think because seeking help has been a really really huge problem for even especially women. They do not want to ask out. They feel it's something on them. So I think that's very important. If organizations can set that tone, and as you said, if leaders can become, if they can show that they are also vulnerable, they also require that kind of support and help, that kind of sets the tone for everybody else in the organization. May your thoughts on the guilt part that we were trying to focus on, and how do women deal with that? We've all been in this industry working for years now. You must have gone through different phases of that guilt. So if you could share something there.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that point that Sumita said earlier, right? About us women thinking that we're not giving enough, or if we focus on the family, we're neglecting work, and then if we focus on work, we're neglecting the family. So that is very real. For those of you who are in this conversation who are first time mothers, you went through that cycle for sure, right? About wanting to take care of a baby, but having to have your career at the same time. Am I a bad mother for having a career? Can I just stay home? So this guilt is very evident among women. What I have discovered in this journey is that women are the biggest critic of themselves. The self imposed standards that we give to us as a person, not even to other women, right? And this is very personal, is so high, and that you turn around and people don't really expect you to be superwoman or to be Wonder Woman, right? You'll be surprised how the rest can be more forgiving than you yourself. And so we are our biggest critic. And when that happens, what do? And Sumita hit on that point as well, right? Be the shoulder for others, right? Be there for other women who are going through these challenges and trying to process it. If we can be the biggest critic, we can also be the biggest cheerleader and the biggest supporter of women. Unfortunately, you will encounter environments where women criticize other women in a very, very destructive way. And so I always tell women, no one can support women better than us, because the challenges that we face as women in corporate, as mothers, as daughters, as wives, we are the only one who can relate to that. We are the only one who is so near to that, that the emotions are so raw that when they transfer to work, we can only have strong women who have been there, done that, to rely on to help us through that journey. And so surround yourself with strong women and be the cheerleader of other women, because women themselves are self critics, self imposed standards. Help them get over that, help them through the journey. And conversations at a store for a sales lady having a bad day, right? And women are so cruel, especially when they deal with teenagers, right? A pat in the back and say, it's okay. I know you're having a bad day, right? But you're doing a great job. It can do wonders for someone who's having a bad day. So be a cheerleader for women, support other women, right? Transfer that strength that you have and form a circle of women who can be strong for you when you need them to.
Wow, that was so beautifully put, May. I also totally agree. I think women need to stop being hard on themselves, ease out a bit. And as you said, become cheerleaders. I think they need to become cheerleaders for their own self also first. So cheer for yourself for the kind of work that the effort that you're putting in, and then support all other women. It's all about women for women, right? And that's how it's going to go forward. So very beautifully put. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next question around leadership now. So, a study also found that women are rising as stronger leaders than men and doing more to support their teams and advance diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. How can we get more men to champion DEI? However, that is the question. So, Somita, would you like to take this first?
I would, and I would maybe start with a slight disagreement here. When we talk about champions or cheerleaders for women, I don't think men are any less. I am surrounded by men in my personal and professional sphere who don't really differentiate between men and women, and at times they consciously try to make sure like diversity and inclusion has been a strong focus area, I think, at least for the insurance industry and many other industries. And if I talk about AXA personally, in AXA Indonesia, I think we have more women leaders than we have men. That said, I think what men may not understand, and that's what I would try to call their attention to, is the first fact that May alluded to, that women are their own worst self critics. There may be situations where men do not imagine there could be a struggle because they don't think that way. And it has nothing to do with the kind of opportunities of hardships the woman might have faced, because May, for example, we may not have suffered hardships, but yet we critique ourselves more. We apply a different lens of perfection. We tend to judge that we're not ready for something, or someone else knows something better, or we have a lot of these standards that we hold ourselves up to, which a lot of men don't. Again, I don't want to be sexist and say, that men do not have the same exacting standards as we do, but we tend to be more self-critical. It's just the way we are genetically engineered, I suppose. I think that awareness, that this in itself brings some biases which they may not be aware of and they would otherwise overlook, is something I would draw their attention to. Another thing that men, or maybe all leaders should pay attention to, is hiring. Okay. I am the last person who advocates reservation in any sphere. When we talk about reservation for women in the parliament, I am not really a huge, I don't want to get political here, but those are not the kind of things I'm alluding to. So when you're hiring, if you have two candidates, judge them on their merit by all means. But the lens you need to apply here is, are you getting enough internal and external women applicants? If not, is it because women aren't ready for it, or is it something holding them back? And the reason it's important to apply this filter is, uh, you're missing out on a lot of opportunity for the organization by not ensuring that women are applying to the roles that you need. I think a lot of studies have proven that an organization purely talk about business cost benefit analysis. You take better decisions when you have a diverse organization. You need women in your organization to bring a certain perspective. And if women are not applying to, leadership roles, it's definitely not because they are not capable of those roles. So you have to just watch out for the applicants that you're getting and do something about it, at least in your internal sphere, to maybe make them ready for strategic positions more so that they apply to it, or to encourage them more and make them feel that you are ready for it. And even men go through the same insecurities, they just have a different way of broadcasting it than you do. So I think that is the advice I would give to men leaders.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about, again, empathy. It is difficult to feel and put yourself in the shoes of the other person when you're from different genders and you've had different upbringing, different lifestyles, different perceptions. Hence, I think for men to become supportive of women, it requires that, I think, added effort from their side to understand that. And also in terms of becoming, as you said, that we have to create equal opportunities. Also, we have to create equitable opportunities, is what I feel, where you have to look at what suits, what are the needs, or you have to listen to what women need and create opportunities accordingly, rather than just creating equal opportunities for all. That might not fit in for everybody. It's not just gender based, be it racial, be it minority based, anything. I think that's how it should be. But yes, men can and will become better allies, and if women stop being more self-critical, I think men will be also more welcoming and more approachable, in terms of when women can go and ask for becoming. It's also about seeking, as I said, seeking help, creating allies around yourself, be it men or women eventually. So great points there, Samita. Thank you for sharing that. Moving on to our next question, in one of our researches, we found that bias is a critical factor that restrains women from losing out on job opportunities and other advancement opportunities in terms of promotions, pay, learning. But how can we sensitize managers to avoid bias and microaggressions at work, which is very important, that sometimes unconsciously they might be doing that. Unconsciously, a promotion might be going to somebody else. Unconsciously, you might be, as a male manager, if you're hiring, you automatically, somewhere at the back of your mind, you end up preferring the male candidate over the female candidate. So how do we do that, let go of these kind of biases? So May, would you like to respond to that first?
It's a very big topic to tackle because biasness is ingrained in us at an early age. You don't get biasness instantly, right? It is built over time, and it will take time for us to get away from the biasness that we have in our lives. Where do you start, right? We call this the conscious bias. Things that you already know, you are conscious of, you need to be aware of it. And so for organizations, for men in the organizations, you said, right? Promotions going to a male counterpart instead of the female counterpart, or referrals, more comfortable referring men than women. These are conscious bias. And so we need to be aware of them. We need to catch ourselves to them. In the HR profession, we need to challenge those when we see them. And we cannot keep quiet about them, right? And I'm not saying sway things to the favor of the women, because we also have to balance the good of the organization, right? But do not be afraid to ask tough questions to start the conversation, so that people who unconsciously are driven or is attracted towards a decision will take a couple of steps back and say, yeah, I never really thought about that. And we hear that often when we challenge these things, right? So, for example, if a promotion, a man and a woman is contending for the same post, you could always ask gender neutral questions, right? Qualifications, experience, right? Let's not stray on networking or emotions, but those that are quantifiable considerations for a promotion can be asked, can be challenged. Why this over this, right? So call it out. Do not be afraid to challenge. Ask the difficult questions when they need to be asked, and be ready to accept those challenges when they get thrown at you in the organization, right? Getting away from bias, I think we can start, we can contribute. Those mothers that are listening in this conversation, start with your children. One day they will be part of the workforce. The most powerful realization I have seen in men who are strong allies of women is that they have a very positive and strong women influence early in their lives. Women they respect, women who have led their families, women that they have admired. When they come to the workforce, they carry that. So, to all the women out there, the mothers, you have a very strong hand in getting away from this biasness. Start with your kids, influence them, be a positive role model to your children, show them the strength of you as a woman, and they will carry that when one day they become members of our workforce.
That's such a beautiful thought, May. I totally agree with you. It's all starts at home. It all starts at the environment you're brought up in. I think the biases have been ingrained in us, as you said, from generations and generations. But how do you slowly and steadily change that ecosystem, change that environment, bring in that change firstly at that level, and then obviously it kind of emanates and goes further into your work life as you move ahead in your life. So as male colleagues, if we come from that kind of a mindset and our mindset is evolving through time, that will automatically manifest itself at the workplace as well. So Amita, what are your thoughts on how can male colleagues become managers, become more sensitized towards this?
Yeah. And before I make any comments, I have to say there can be nothing better than what May just said, right? It starts from the childhood. So give the right example to your children. And she also spoke about conscious biases. I think we also have to do a good job of turning the unconscious biases into conscious ones as well. And to talk about how we can do that, I'll start with kind of a funny situation that we encountered at work a few years ago. So we had this team that had the best business analysts, and all of them were women. And what happened was, within succession, very close succession, all three of them were expecting. So all three of them went on maternity leave at the same time. And then that team is kind of orphaned because there are no business analysts, because they had never thought of having a contingency plan, because they never thought something like this can happen, and it was an equal opportunity employer, right? So I'm pretty sure a few men who encountered that, and a few women also had second thoughts then, right? So I think to turn these biases, we have to start by acknowledging why these biases occur, and then make sure we have within the organization we have ways to handle that, and b, we are able to communicate why the benefits are greater than the risks. And this is where I go back to my allusion to cost benefit analysis earlier, and I'll again maybe refer to something I am learning about in the field of sustainability. Sustainability talks about resilience, and a resilient ecosystem, learning from Mother Earth, is one that has diversity. And there are uncountable cases that prove that diversity makes an organization stronger, makes the earth stronger, makes any system stronger. And that's something that we really need managers to understand. They need to understand that it is in the interest of the organization to have all these voices. I think aside from that, what really helps is having a balance in your leadership position. And that is one reason a lot of organizations, when they talk about efforts in D&I, they are not only measuring the total workforce, the ratio of women to men in the workforce, they are also looking at the ratio of women in leadership positions. And it's not because you have to choose someone who's a woman, it's because you have to bring different aspects, different critical thinking processes into the system. And when you have that, you automatically, A, you have people you can look up to, B, you have people who will come up with different scenarios that you have to anticipate because they know what can happen in a team that has, let's say, women in critical positions. They will automatically come up with a contingency plan for it, which a man might not think of. So it's very important, I think, to start right from the top of the pyramid in having a balance in your leadership to make sure your managers also are sensitized to it.
Again, I think great points. I think again it boils down to that, right? If you have the right mix of people in your teams, in your leadership positions, you have those perspectives coming in together. What a woman might bring to the table and what a male leader might bring to the table, it has to come together to understand the viewpoints, and then that is how you create those plans. As you said, contingency plans. People had never thought about it, but if they had the right kind of leadership at that point in time, thinking about these situations that might occur in an organization, and managers were sensitized about that, they would have had those plans in place already. So very important to do that. I think, yes, the diversity in the leadership, diversity in the managers that you have, and diversity of thought, as you said also. It's not just about having male and female leaders, but how diverse are your leaders in the way they think and they approach things. So great points there. Thanks so much for sharing, Somita. Moving on, it's now time for our final question for this discussion. And we spoke a lot about guilt and how women are so self critical and all of that. Now it's time to come up with some suggestions and advices for the women folks who are listening in today. So, May, I'll come to you first again. What are some of the ways women can avoid self bias and criticism and take hold of their careers and, in fact, their lives in that matter?
I'd start with saying you women are all great. Start with that statement, right? You're a great person. You're a great woman. You're an accomplished woman. Put that in your head every day when you wake up, because the power of mind conditioning, right, in every aspect, do not underestimate that power to say that you are great, because it is true. And I'm not saying this because I'm biased, or maybe I am, but I'm saying this because of the wonderful women in my life that I have come to admire. I have come to witness their lives. And I say that there is no better master of multi-skilling than women. There are no masters of multiple emotions occurring all at the same time than us women. There is no better manager at home. Trust me, when a mom is not around, everything in the house is missing. But when she's there, everything can be found. There is order in chaos in the lives of the people around us. And that's because of who we are. So celebrate us, right? Celebrate the uniqueness, celebrate the strength of who we are as women in and out of work, is where I would encourage each and every one of us to start with. Second is to reinforce and raise our children, whether they are sons or daughters, to respect each and every individual equally, not whether they are men or women. But I think that aspect of respect in humanity is a very rare currency these days. And we've seen it unfold, right? The disrespect of certain countries towards another country. And so respect for all of us as human beings is a place to start, to get rid of all those negativities that we feel is out there in the world. Celebrating, respecting, and just take the win. Not all days will be the same. Not all days will be perfect. I had a leader who told me that do not aim for a perfect day, aim for an upward trajectory because not all days will be the same, right? So just keep the faith, keep the focus, and just go out there and go conquer the world, you women out there.
How beautiful, May. I totally agree with you. It is about celebrating us. You have to wake up every morning and celebrate the person you are, the woman that you are, and then go out there and conquer the world. Beautiful thoughts. Samita, what would your advice be?
Sure. I think a lot of women face something we call imposter complex. I think my first advice is please acknowledge that and then be bold enough to overcome this insecurity. Because to be honest, women are not the only one who face that. A lot of us, when we are trying to aim for higher positions, we double, triple check ourselves. It is normal. You will rise only if you are bold enough to take on the challenge. If you had already done it, why would you need to rise, right? So always accept that something being new means you're not an expert at it. No one else was when they started off. So it's okay to feel the imposter complex, but you have to be bold enough to take charge and overcome it. Everyone else does that. And I have personally given opportunities to people in my team, and they thought they weren't ready for it when I knew they were, and they have really surpassed my expectations, let alone theirs. The second advice I would have is look for inspirations. If you look at someone like Angela Merkel, Indira Gandhi, whoever your inspiration is, you see all these bold, powerful, impactful women, and you probably think they come from a different planet, different world where they did not have insecurities, where they did not face these challenges. But it's not true. They are mothers, family members, women with health problems, with people doubting them, everything all around them. In fact, they have probably been challenged way more than our generation is being challenged. And they weren't perfect when they started out with because they did not have the role models to show them how to achieve what they did, right? The very fact that they were able to achieve it is testament to the fact that you don't need to be perfect to achieve what they did. So find inspirations and find their feet of clay is probably my second advice.
Beautiful advice again. I think it's very important. I think as women we need to actually understand and let go of our own self criticism, our own guilt that we live with. We know that there's so much within us, but we yet try to, we try to look down upon our own selves. So the bias is somewhere within us. Rather than helping the world find the, beat the bias or break that bias, it's time for us to also break the biases that we have within us, love ourselves more, put ourselves out there more, and that's how we will conquer the world. So thank you so much on that note, Samita and May. It was a wonderful conversation, so inspirational. I would really like both of you to please wish everybody hearing us today happy Women's Day. So May, Samita, please.
Wish you
Happy
all a great
Women's Day. Happy Women's Day, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be around you on my screen. I hope one day we get to see each other in person. Such a pleasure to share this platform with you, wonderful women. So happy Women's Day, everyone.
Yeah, and I hope a lot of you really go after your dreams and don't let anything hold you back. So yeah, once again, happy Women's Day.
Thank you, Samita. Thank you, May. Yes, it is time to break the bias, empower your own self, help empower other women. Let's go out there and conquer the world. On that note, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you once again, Samita and May. You were beautiful. So much to learn from the both of you. Look forward to more such conversations in the future as well. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Hope you learned as much as I did from this session today. And hope to see you soon again. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.